in thinking through what took place on your first deployment in Europe with your being reborn, if you will, did that change your mentality, mindset, attitude, or how you conducted yourself differently in the second deployment versus the first?
Well, this actually happened. I actually got saved during that second deployment.
Oh, okay.
So once we were done in that right there in North Africa, we actually went back to rejock before we went out to the next location, and that's actually when that happened.
Oh, okay.
So it was on that deployment. That was, I don't know, that deployment was probably 5 or 6 months long.
Yeah.
And yes, it did change. It changed me tremendously.
Can you share where you went after the rejock in Europe?
Yeah. So after we finished there, we went out to Nigeria, and we were working with Nigerian special forces. They were fighting against a really nasty group called Boko Haram.
Yeah.
And we worked with those guys for a couple of months.
Was that mostly FID type stuff, or?
Yeah, that was mostly training them, equipping them, advising them.
Yeah.
And great group of dudes. I had a blast out there doing that job, man.
Any close calls when working with them, or was it pretty?
I don't know about close calls, man. I do remember. I'll never forget. We were out on the range training them one day, and we had supplied them all with SIG P226s, same pistols that we used. And I'll never forget one of those dudes punching out to take his first shot in double action, and I assume his finger was not strong enough to pull the trigger. So I'm watching him, and he's pulling, the hammer's coming back, but he just can't get that first shot off. And he looks around, and he tries to make sure that nobody's looking, and he cocks the hammer back to first action and then takes his first shot.
Good old long draw of the double action.
Yeah, man. Yeah, those guys were they were something else, dude. That's a weird country, man, because it's Nigeria's split. The northern half is Muslim and the southern half is predominantly Christian.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see that special operations unit, essentially their equivalent of SEALs. It was a mixture of Christian and Muslim guys.
Oh, wow.
Because they were coming from all over the country to be part of this special forces unit. And it was really cool to see how well they interacted together. Yeah. In spite of the religious differences that was essentially tearing their country in half.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So interestingly, I mean, so you had just come from a pretty, religious experience yourself, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
An awakening of sorts. So how did that change who you were as a man, as a SEAL, as an operator after that? Yeah.
I mean, it changed everything about me as a man, for sure. I think the way to sum it up is I was in a place where, like we talked about earlier, I found more fulfillment in doing what I knew was right than what I knew I had been doing that was wrong. And that's in terms of how I interacted with people, how I viewed people. Not just my teammates, but anybody who I was around. It changed the way I talked. It changed the way I viewed the world. And all that kind of happened nearly overnight.
Yeah.
And it was noticeable, by the guys that I was there with, that I was working with.
Yeah. Did they ask you about it?
Yeah. They totally asked me about it, man. And, I think that's one really cool thing about at least that specific platoon is nobody judged. I saw very few instances in the teams where anybody judged anybody based off of how they wanted to believe.
Yeah.
You would think it would be different.
Yeah. To me, one of the interesting and I think refreshing simplicities of the military in general, or at least when we were in, it sounds like it's maybe less that way now, social experiment wise, but is that you really can kind of reduce most decisions and perspectives down to one question. which is, does this make us a better warfighting force? Yes, do it. No, don't do it. But I think, that's on the macro, the entire military or Department of Defense. But you can go all the way down to the micro, is that my opinion of you is going to be based really on one fucking thing. Can you do your job, and do I trust to go to war with you? Yes, then I love who you are, right? If the answer is no, I don't want to fucking work with you, and I don't care what other exterior things exist. Skin color means nothing. Hair color means nothing. Religion means nothing. None of those personality traits or aesthetic traits mean anything. The only thing that matters is, do I trust you to squeeze my shoulder going into a room?
Yep.
And so to me, there's a simplistic beauty in that it gives you an ability to live that way. And I think that's one thing that, unfortunately, most people never have the pleasure of experiencing, being able to be in an environment like that, where you truly can be singularly focused on one thing, and there's really nothing that divides you, other than job competency.
Yeah. It's one thing that the platoons do
very
really good job at, man.
Yeah. I mean, the higher up you go, the less it's that way, I think, military-wide. But all right, so you get back from that deployment. What did you go to Tradet right after that, or did you do other stuff?
Yeah, we did. I did some augments with the Secret Service counter assault team.
How was that?
That was with Mr. Obama. So we did some.
I noticed you call him Mr. and not President. I'm just busting your
chops. Bad, President. Yeah. We did some work with them over in Africa in a couple of different locations.
Can you share the nature of what you were doing, or is that?
Yeah, again, I don't know how much
whatever you're comfortable
needs
with
to be put out, but essentially it was we were the kind of heavy hitters.
Oh, okay.
If something went down, and we had a plan to extract him out of the situation, and we were there, ready, prepared to execute that plan.
I gotcha.
In the event, it was a really difficult mission, because as a SEAL, you're trained to be so offensive. I mean, we're always going to try to ambush, or we're always going to try to stack everything in our favor, in any scenario.
Yeah.
But with that job, you're running purely defensive. Mm-hmm. And that's an uncomfortable place to be, man.
It is. I mean, reactionary is tricky and uncomfortable that way, But it sounds like, you guys were the Secret Service's sledgehammer or catch dog in hunting dog terms, right?
Yeah, totally. And also the spotlight is so on everything that's happening in that environment. And so, there are things that happen where you want to hesitate, because there's so much that rides on a decision that you make. I mean, I remember being out, President Obama was in a meeting, and we were basically the inner security for that building he was in, and the local guys had kind of the outer ring of security. And, we were told, if anything breaks through that outer ring, you eliminate that threat, right? Yeah. Because we were real close. And so local dude breaks through that outer perimeter. The local dudes are yelling at him, trying to stop him. He's on a little moped, got a big jacket on. And
it's 90 degrees and he's got a jacket.
He's got a big jacket on. Yeah, it's hot outside. And he's just, he's rolling straight towards us, man. And, you draw down on this dude with your rifle, and the whole time you're thinking, if I pull the trigger on this dude, and he's not really a threat, there's going to be some severe repercussions.
Yeah.
And so luckily in that scenario, the guy sees a bunch of dudes coming out, drawing down on him with rifles, a bunch of white dudes, and he stops.
Yeah.
And he ended up just being an idiot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean, it's like you got your hands tied.
Yeah.
It felt like you had your hands tied.
Sure.
You know?
Especially coming from the environment you were just in, I imagine you're even more, not trigger happy, but, on edge more than you would be maybe if you went straight over there or that was like your main gig.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Did you do one augment with them there? Or
I did 2 augments with them. Yeah.
And similar missions?
3 different locations. Yeah. Two augments. Yeah. Similar missions. Yeah. I got the utmost respect for those guys, man. Yeah. They do a hard freaking job.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of stress and travel and moving pieces to the job they do, getting some insight into it, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, the planning that goes into that if they've done their job right, that nobody even realizes exists, or that they were there is mind bending.
Yeah.
So you come back from that, and then you went to Trinidad after that. Is that?
So I come back from that, and I actually was, thinking that we were just going to roll into another ULT. Mm-hmm. And when I got back from that, I realized for the first time that my wife was dying from addiction.
Oh, wow. So were you married this whole time?
Yeah, I've been married the whole time.
Okay. When did you get married? At what point?
I got married just shortly after I arrived at Team 8.
Oh, okay.
So, just kind of right after SQT.
The hometown sweetheart kind of thing? Or?
Yeah. We knew each other since we were 16 years old.
So you're over there and you realize she's dying of addiction. Can I ask what kind?
Pills.
Pills.
Yeah. Opiates and benzos and
everything. Huh?
All that stuff. Yeah.
What made you realize that?
Well, when I got back from that second deployment, it had the addiction had progressed to a place where essentially it was multiple back-to-back overdoses, and she would spend days in the bed, just kind of in a coma essentially. So it had progressed to the point where it was like, wow. Prior to that, I had traveled so much in training and deploying or whatever. I've been gone so much, it hadn't progressed to a point that it was noticeable for somebody like me that was gone all the time.
Yeah.
I'd come home and spend a couple, 2 or 3 days with her and then I'd be gone again. But this time it progressed so far that you couldn't hide it.
Yeah.
And she was, it's amazing that she didn't pass away.
Yeah.
But she, I think, came to the conclusion in her own mind that I've either got to, I'm at the point now that I'm going to have to get clean or it's going to be over.
Yeah. Did you give
her
that?
That kind of railroaded me, man.
Did you give her that talk?
No, I didn't. I was angry. Yeah, I was angry because this scenario really sidetracked me in career-wise. You know what I mean? I had to make a decision very quickly. Am I going to be here and serve my wife, or am I going to give myself to the Navy? Like, am I going to give myself to my wife or give myself to the Navy?
It's a tough choice.
Yeah, it's really tough, man. And when you go to your leadership, at least the people that I was with then, and you tell them that, you don't get embraced. I mean, you feel a little, you almost get ostracized.
Really?
You know what I mean? But that's the decision that I made, was like, I had to go to the people that needed to know, and tell them that, hey man, I got to take a knee here. Like, where can I go so that I can be around enough to at least ensure that my wife makes it through this process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that ended up being Trinidad.
Yeah. What was that path like? I mean, I feel like we've had enough people on. I don't need to get too heavy into trade ed. It's essentially training platoons at certain skill sets to deploy. I'd love to focus on the at-home component of that, of what that was like for you.
If you can sum it up, I guess in one sentence, it would be learning to die to yourself. And I think the biggest key for me was really reconciling with the fact that this thing had progressed into a disease. It was something that she had no control over. And so that was really key for me to understand that, because prior to coming to that conclusion, you're just angry at the person. You're like, what the crap, man?
Yeah.
Why don't you just
stop
doing this? So I had to come to the realization that she can't stop. Like, this is going to take treatment. And then it's a matter of sacrificing everything that you wanted to do, everything that you thought you were going to do, in order to serve the person that you love and to honor the covenant that you have with that person. That's freaking hard, man. I can't think of a more selfless act. I mean, I don't know what that would be. Well, when if you were to ask me what is the number one attribute that I would look for in a teammate, it would be selflessness first. Mm-hmm. If every dude in a SEAL platoon is focused more on their teammate and serving their teammate than they are focused on their own personal needs and desires, it would be an unstoppable force. And there have been platoons that operated like that, and they were unstoppable.
Yeah.
But that applies in marriage too. The only difference is, in marriage you can just quit. Mm-hmm. There's that option that's lingering and available and accepted widely by our culture. And there was a very distinct moment that I wanted to quit. I had worked hard to finally be in the position that I was in, and my desire was to keep going. And I wanted to say, heck with this, man. Like, why am I sacrificing everything for this? And I called my little brother again, and he simply said to me, I told him, I said, I can't do this any longer. Like, this is crazy. And he just said to me, Chad, you don't have a choice. Like, he reminded me of that covenant that I had made, and that actually means something. And once I made that decision to take quitting off the table, then it was a process of learning to die to myself, which, by the way, I'm still in the process of learning to die to myself.
Yeah. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, it's, addiction is something that stays with the person their entire life. An addict's life, and by the way, I'm speaking from my perspective. I'm not an addict myself, just from what I've seen.
Maybe to running. You could argue.
Yeah, maybe to running.
Punishing yourself.
But, so we recently had another bout with active addiction. And, I realized really quickly that I had not completely died to myself, and I was not completely invested in serving my wife, because the first thing that I thought was, how many more times are you going to drag me through the mud?
This was how recent?
It was very recent.
Yeah.
And so that was a red flag to me. And I thought, no, man, I have to change that from how many more times are you going to drag me through the mud? To let's go through the mud together. You know what I mean?
I do.
And
I am curious, just in my own, because I've never met your wife, and for that matter, it's the first time I've met you. I have a ton of respect for you. But in the playing devil's advocate, is that sacrilege to call it that?
No, you're good, Mike.
Is there a red line for you? Is there a point where you'd say, you know what, that's it? Or is it you'll go down on the ship with her?
Yeah, I would. There wouldn't.
There is.
I can't see. I mean, I think biblically, there are some lines that and I would probably adhere to those biblical lines, and biblically, Christ in the New Testament, there are lines in terms of adultery, in cases of adultery or in cases of abuse, things like that. But with the struggle that we face as a couple, and that struggle is recovery, there is no line.
Yeah.
It would no.
To me, I think the distinction then for alleviating a term, the term of abuse would be in that it's a disease and not a choice, right? Is that
yeah?
Is that where you'd make that distinction?
And by abuse, I mean like physical abuse, like
yeah, but to me, mental abuse is no better.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And to me, there is an element of. Well, let me take one step back. Is that I'm not pretending to be in your shoes. I have a truckload of respect for your dedication to your wife and to everything in your life. It's inspiring and noteworthy, no two ways about it. For me, it's difficult to look at something purely as a disease and not at least somewhat of a choice. When you compare, say, a 5-year-old with leukemia, right? Like, to me, that's very clear cut. That's a fucking disease that they had no part in. Again, and this is not me saying that addiction isn't a disease. I do get it. I've known plenty of people and agreed, like, while myself, I am not an addict, I've seen people that I trusted and respected the hell out of that struggled enough with it for me to say, yeah, there's something more there than just they're choosing to be an asshole. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but I do think that there is at least an element of choice to it. I mean, there is some element. And so my take, again, and just, again, I guess from a devil's advocate standpoint, is that the amount of mud that you're being drugged through, could one not argue that is, in essence, sort of abuse, or it could be taken that way, mental abuse that way?
That's the interesting dynamic in terms of addiction and seeing it as a disease, is because if I look at it from a purely logical standpoint, without being in the mind of an addict, you have to draw the conclusions that the first step is a choice. But what are the components of that person, or the flaws in the wiring? If you want to call it flaws, we're all flawed. But what is it in their wiring that leads them to that choice?
Sure.
So, even that initial choice to start using that drug, how were they influenced to make that choice?
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, they're influenced by a medical professional, and they're simply following instructions that they think are going to make them better.
Yeah.
But it becomes very quickly something that is all consuming.
Yeah.
Addiction is, I have seen it. It is more powerful than a mother's love. It's more powerful than sex. It's more powerful than money. It is what I believe to be the most powerful, influential force on earth.
I don't disagree with that. And I think you bring up a good point. One that admittedly, that I've thought of it from that perspective. I won't say that I never thought of it from that perspective. But I like the way that you put it. And I do think, ultimately the choices that you make, there's been enough studies on, the role the amygdala plays and whether or not you really are in a conscious control of a lot of your choices, and that there's kind of a debate or an argument saying that you're in control of far less things than you realize. And I do think there's a lot of truth to that. So I think that's a super fair point, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Again, I want to reiterate though that my hat is off to you. I'm not going to take it off because I'm bald and look like a penis without hair, but I do think that it's amazing what you're doing, and it's so rare in today's day and age to see the kind of dedication and commitment between spouses that you have with your wife, and I think that should be commended. But.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike, and I think we should all keep in perspective what are the things that are going to be with you for your whole life. Like, I think we see so many times guys and girls that make the choice to, or they choose their career before they choose that person that is their spouse, and that career is freaking over, man.
Yeah,
I'm so glad I made the choice that I made.
Yeah,
because I'm going to tell you right now, man, my life is better than anybody else's life listening to this podcast. I will vouch for that.
Yeah.
That's I'm saying that for myself.
Yeah.
I mean, the life that I have with the woman that I love is better than any Navy SEAL thing that could have been provided to me. Like, it is unbelievable. So think about that if you're listening to this.
Yeah.
What's going to stay with you for the duration of your life?
Yeah.
Very few things, and be dedicated to those things.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And I think for everybody as an individual, if you can't look inward and say, like, I have the best life that I know of, or I'm living, the life that I'm living now is better than everybody else's. Like, if you can't say that, I think you should strive to be able to say that.
Yeah, man.
I truly do, because I feel the same way. And I think you're doing it right if that's how you feel.
Yeah.
So at what point, whether it was in trade ed or where did the running bug come from? Because you didn't grow up running. Sounds like you were, middle of the road running wise throughout SEAL training, or at least that wasn't what you were, doing. I mean, it's part of the job. But so at what point was it like staring you in the face saying it's time to run?
It was toward the very end of my time in the Navy when I knew that chapter of my life was about to come to a close, and I had lived so long, my entire adult life to this point, in a place that challenged me physically and mentally in so many ways. Almost every single day. I mean, that's almost every single day that you spend in the military doing really any job. I guarantee you're being challenged physically and mentally on some level. And I love that, man. I loved that aspect of being in the teams. And I realized that I was going to need something else in my life that challenged me in that way. And so I just saw a advertisement for a 50-mile trail run, and I didn't even think it was humanly possible for someone to run 50
Why don't
miles.
I try that?
Yeah, that was exactly my thoughts. And I said, man, this could be that thing. I've done a lot of running as a SEAL. I'm fit, and I went and tried it. I went and ran that race, and it freaking obliterated me, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't train for it. I was just generally fit.
Yeah.
And I thought,
typical team guy.
I thought, man, this can be a really cool thing that can give me something to strive to do, that's going to keep me sharp, that's going to continue to teach me new things about myself, and give me an opportunity to push into new areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.